Okay, for those of you who are kind enough to tune into my Robbins and Myers fan restoration, I have another fan that was in the family. This one is a Signal Electric Cool Spot, Menominee, Michigan, AC or DC fan. This is a little smaller. Obviously, this has been repaired by my father or grandfather. The cord is not cotton. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if the base fell off or it was riveted. The grommet is hard. There's another grommet going to the head, which is already falling apart and crumbling. In fact, I think it fell on the floor last night and it's gone in its entirety. This is not an oscillating fan, as this one was. So it's got a lot simpler design. It does look dirty in there. Part of this has, I was considering repainting this one, and I was like, that's too much work. I don't have the right tools, and plus, I was able to clean it up enough that I was able to conserve its natural patina. But I might have to do something with these blades and maybe that cage. I don't know that the stand or rotor stator housing needs that. I thought maybe this was an AC only fan, but then I read the label. This is AC DC, but these brushes, this is also a brushed universal fan if it's AC and DC. These are in better shape than this was, because I had to come up with a scheme for holding the brushes in. But this seems like it's screwed in and it's metal, so maybe it's exposed to the, maybe you can get shocked from it if current decides to follow you through a ground path. This one also spins when I throw my finger on it. This one did not, because the oscillating unit was clogged with grease. So I'm almost tempted to touch it into the receptacle there to see if it will spin quickly. Because this one has an on and off switch. This Robbins and Myers was further complicated by a voltage divider resistive switch that was aged. So there was a lot more risk. Plus this was more sentimental to me. This is the one I remember. So I didn't want to go catastrophically plugging it in with a stiff fan and stiff oscillating unit and potentially all kinds of things wrong inside of the switch unit. But this one I'm a little tempted to just see what happens. So let me see. I'm hoping off is down, but I'm not sure. So let's just see what happens. Hopefully I don't get sparks here. Oh, so it spun. Let's try it again. It runs, but I smelt ozone. And that could just be a dirty commutator, dirty brushes. But it runs. So that's good. So what I'm going to do is start taking this apart. And I know people don't like multiple part videos, but my life is not sitting around restoring stuff. So let me just throw this to the off position. Since that came on, just let's make sure it doesn't start again. Yeah. The switch is still good. Alright. So, I gotta remove that tape, clean up all the goo that was underneath there, see why the tape was there to begin with. Did it lose its base? Do I have to come up with a new base? Take apart the fan, the blades, the cage, sand and clean it. I don't think that's brass. All right. Signal Electric Cool Spot. Video 1. So the cage is off. Those two little nuts were just barely holding on the cage on here. I couldn't figure out how to get this housing open. I thought it was press fit, and I was like thinking on it a few days, and then I thought these might be washers, but they're affixed to these screws, or I don't know. But I started tapping on this end with first the screwdriver and then a little harder with a hammer, and it's starting to separate. So let me see if I can ease it off. Obviously they must go through, and that must be affixed to the housing on this side, and this side will come off with the brushes. Let's see. All right, so that's apart. And let's see if I can get a little light here. A brush fell out. I'm going to have to label those brushes again so I don't get the direction backwards. This one's pretty dirty too. So that was good. I thought this was going to be like something I had to take a vise to, so I'm pretty happy. Do I pay attention to the I gotta pay attention to these washers that I didn't do a great job of the first time on the first video, first fan. So let me, it's Sunday, I might just chill today. I got the stand off, I cut the AC inputs. I gotta get this tape off, see what's going on. Stand's off. This part of the stand is welded to that housing with the brushes. So yeah, got it apart. Gonna clean up a little bit here and then decide whether I'm gonna go farther today in cleaning this up and organizing the pieces, but that was good. Stripping these old cotton wires is a disaster. Makes a huge mess, and it's hard to get the waxy cloth off. But I decided to go with the original wiring rather than splicing new because it's attached pretty well to the brushes. Same on this end, but as you can see, the copper's hard to get clean, which might explain why I had such a hard time soldering the last fan. Come on, focus. See how it's all like impregnated with shit? That waxy crap. But I cleaned the stator housing, so it's a lot cleaner. Of course, now I fingered it all up when I was getting this off. So the stator housing is cleaner. You can go back to the beginning of the video and see how gummy and nasty it was. So I'll probably go natural patina on this. I cleaned the rotor. I cleaned the washers. I cleaned the commutator a little bit there. So everything is ready for this to be soldered together. Oh, and I noticed there's no oil cup on this motor, but there's these little oil ports, and there's wicking in there, but there's no way I'm getting this off because it's riveted. So I'm just gonna go with I did clean out the bearings with a little stick. So I'm just gonna go ahead and soak those with oil as is. There's one on the brush side and there's one on the stator side. Where are you? I couldn't find anything online about fishing those out and repacking. I'm guessing it's either just a little wick, but you know, I'm not gonna mess with it. I'm gonna see if it takes oil I cleaned them out the best I could. So I'm getting ready to reassemble this. And I'm going to try to figure out how to clean that copper a little better, and then we'll get to the base and the fan blade and the cage, but I'm going to start by reassembling this. So I used white vinegar and a Q-tip and my fingernail to clean these up the best I could. I'm going to let the white vinegar set. They're a little brighter, a little cleaner. So let that set and we'll see if it solders better. All that tape came off relatively easily. I guess there was a felt bottom on here, which I will probably just glue on, maybe make a cardboard base or something. The switch needs to be cleaned up at the very least. So we'll clean this up. I had to take a break from soldering the motor. The wires were too short, so I gotta continue with that too. I got all the goop off, I got the felt off. It's not gummy anymore. It's shinier, but we're gonna keep that patina. But that's that cleaned off. That's the base cleaned off. With goof off. Well, I got the motor reassembled and wired. That was not easy. I plugged it in using the see if it works method, and it wasn't running. It kind of went beep and then it didn't do anything, and then like I think I got a shock. But I don't know if it was because I was touching those brushes, which go right down to the brushes, the spring into the brush into the commutator, or whether I had a short. I used a little screwdriver and I poked through those holes to kind of separate everything. I don't know what I'm doing, but let's plug it in over here. See that? Kind of. Now it's struggling again. What's going on there? I don't know if I have to work in the brushes or what. It was spinning pretty good a second ago. What the? Hold on. So it's working. It's like it needs. And it's going clockwise, which is good because that's the way I want it to go. But I don't know if the commutators have to break in and the brushes aren't making good contact, that it would run 1 second and not the next. But well, it's cleaned up and rewired, and that was not easy. All right, we're gonna stop right there. All the rust is off. It's as smooth as silk. I mean, I just think that's the color of the steel mainly. It looks like an old, nice World War II airplane propeller. I like the patina on this, and I can't make it look better than the rest of the fan. So the blade's done. Well, it's not gummy anymore, but I had to go easy on the label because the ink started coming off. So, but it's not all sticky and gooey. All right, I got the fan ready for reassembly. I just want to do some safety checks. First, this toggle switch. Let's check. Let's check continuity. I want to know which is what's on and what's off in orientation with the toggle. I wished I was a cameraman. Let's see. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Okay. I'm seeing overload. Oh no, what is that? Some resistance. I just might have a shit meter here. Okay, so up is overload. So when that switch is facing the solder terminals, it appears open. I turn it on. Why that's well, what the what is going on here? 0.1 ohms is not enough for continuity on this meter. So there's 0.2 ohms across the switch. And then when I turn it off, overload. So off is up. Now let's see if there's continuity between the electrical terminals and this knob that I'll be touching to turn it on and off. I'm on a terminal here, and I'll just go to this knob. That's a pretty good sign. So the switch looks like it's safe. Let's see if I just touch the knob to the case. Where's my continuity here? What is going on? Alright. So off is up. And on is down. I guess I had the wrong setting. So off is up. I gotta remember that tomorrow when I wire this thing. Okay, and there's no continuity. So I don't know what's inside this switch, if there's a ceramic or Bakelite seesaw in there that like I don't know how they insulated these old switches, but it appears safe. So now let's go to what I want to check to see if there's any continuity between the wire that would be 115 and the case. Oh good, I got my cord wrapped around the camera here. Okay, that's good because I was nervous. I'm seeing overload between I'm seeing overload between the power cord and the case. Now, these brushes on the back here. Sorry about my... So these brushes are like brass screws. And I think I got shocked yet. Well, no, I know I got a little tingle. So let's see if there's continuity between... And I expect there would be, because there's the brush, a spring, and then these brass screws. So let's see what's going on between this. Oh, see, I'm getting... I don't know. Can you read that? I got my like stand in the way. Between the brush, so I'm getting some resistance. So these brushes on these old fans, I don't know who came up with this design, they have voltage on them. So that's probably where I got a little zapped the other day. I'm getting 125 ohms drop, and this brass is probably not as conductive as copper or steel even. So let's just, yeah, 72 ohms depending on... Well, I'm relieved that there's no there's no continuity between the wires in the case, so that means my wiring was okay, I hope. Touching around here. Overload. Let me just make sure I'm not like on the wrong setting. Why does this keep going off continuity? So there's no continuity there, and I'm getting resistance. So there's some voltage drop between the 115 input and these brushes. I guess that must have been enough for the guys that were building these things in the 30s. Of course, we all grew up with knowing that when we touch electronics, we have to be careful. So okay, I've got no dead shorts between the conductor and the case. Let me see if I can measure a resistance here. Yeah, I'm getting overload. Good. And here, I'm getting like somewhere around, I don't know, 70 to 100 ohms. All right. So I think we're, I didn't make any mistakes shorting out the case when I soldered it, but the inherent design of these brushes puts some voltage, and probably enough to kill you if you're standing in a shower. So I gotta make a sign for my my offspring that, like, when I die, don't use any of this stuff, because nobody has an appreciation for electricity anymore. All right, reassembly and solder time. Okay, I got the old toggle switch installed and tightened, heat shrinked. Now I got down, off, and on, up, which makes more sense than how it was. And now I'm going to put in a new grommet from my kit, and glue a new base on using this old coaster. I don't know if that's going to get enough coverage, but it should be good. And I bought some new contact cement for the felt that will go on the coaster. So let's make sure I'm not forgetting anything and move on. Cleaned up the plug a little bit from the original fan. Got it wired up. Alright, before we go crazy, I'm going to put the fan on before I glue the base on and just make sure it's gonna run. So let's give her a shot. Try not to cut the cord off. Hold on 1 second. Here goes nothing. Boom! Doesn't even smell like ozone anymore. All right, let's glue the base on. Woo! Big Mama. And Little Mama. Oh, the smell of ozone. Thanks for tuning in.